the northern Nigerian crisis, an independent perspective. Since the Kafanchan crisis of 1987, during the military rule of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, northern Nigeria has been engulfed in one ethnic crisis or the other. People of different religious and tribal groups often engage in clashes that leave hundreds, sometimes thousands dead, and several properties destroyed. The conflicts are essentially tribal, but where the two groups belong to different religions, it quickly takes a religious dimension. The reasons behind these ethno-religious conflicts are complex, but there is a consensus that politicians interested in grabbing the little that is available to many instigate their tribal and religious groups against others. There is always evidence to show that each of the crises is carefully orchestrated by the elite, who always go scot-free due to the weak state of the nation that allows the complicity and the compromise of even the law enforcement agencies. The encroaching Sahara Desert is also another culprit in that it is forcing thousands of families to abandon their homes in the periphery of the far north and move southward into central Nigeria that is mainly occupied by people of other tribes and religions. Conflict over land becomes inevitable. The weak Nigerian economy has compounded the problem by failing to provide jobs for teeming youths that received little or no education at all. Thus, poverty and ignorance, the two major careers of hate and envy, have become entrenched in the north more than anywhere else in the country. Then comes the contribution by corrupt governors in the region. Most of these guys pocket the largest share of the resources allocated to their governments and those of the local governments they oversee. A corrupt governor who failed to pay the wages of his workers for the past 6 months is central to the bloody conflict on the plateau, where he pitches his ethnic group against the rest. In Nigeria, corruption is not punished, it is rewarded. It is a welcome lifestyle in the cycle of the ruling class. It is often rewarded by elevation to higher positions at the federal level. Merit is considered a disadvantage and integrity a clog in the wheel of accumulating personal fortune. There has been an obvious neglect of the entire northern region for several decades now. Development has concentrated in the southwestern part of the country. The overwhelming number of businesses is located in the port city of Lagos that served as the nation's capital for about 8 decades. Less than 15% of the nation's economy reside in the north. That is housed to about 60% of the population and covers 75% of the Nigerian landmass. Finally, no objective analyst will dismiss the contribution of the rising tide of intolerance among both the Muslim and the Christian right camps, which has become common in developing countries. When employment, poverty, corruption, and injustice conspire to make the present unbearable, the temptation to resort to the past and idealism becomes almost irresistible to many. The past, with all its wars, slavery, disease, bigotry, and so on, is immaculately painted in a white attractive color. Religion, both Islam and Christianity, has often been interpreted in exclusive and divisive terms. Survival and salvation for us, destruction and hell for them. Under conditions of extreme poverty, The doctrine of peace, tolerance, and the freedom of belief that are common to both become ousted in the minds of the unsuspecting masses by those of intolerance, crusade, and jihad. In the end, the blood of the innocent is let, while leaders of religions enjoy the luxury of riding jeeps and flying their personal jets. The average northerner takes his religion seriously, and in that commitment, he often becomes misguided, or rather victimized, by the growing cleric that are anything but God-fearing. When all these factors are considered, there is every reason for northern Nigeria to become a crucible for trouble and unrest, a keg that will continue to explode in different places and different times. The central Nigerian states of Kaduna and Plateau have become the epicenters of such brutal conflicts between Christians and Muslims. But away from central Nigeria, and since 2009, a group in the hitherto quiet northeastern part of the country has come up with another brand of conflict that is remarkably different in vision and dimension. It is an insurgency that has incapacitated the two states in that corner of the north and recently exerted additional pressure on Muslim-Christian relationship in the country. Jama'atu Ahli Sunnati Lid-Da'wati wal Jihad, the Sunni Vanguard for Islamic Mission and Jihad, or Boko Haram as it is commonly called in Nigeria, is a Salafi movement that is up against the Nigerian government. It has often said that its objective is to establish an Islamic nation in Muslim-dominated areas of the country. This is a call that it shares with many other Muslim groups, to be candid. However, where Boko Haram differs from the rest is in its vision of the nature of that Islamic nation and the means of achieving it. While other groups seek to establish a modern Islamic nation and are not militant in their approach, Boko Haram, like most other Salafi groups, aspires to a pre-modern Islamic nation whose values and judgments are inspired by those of previous Muslim scholars, the Salaf. Thus, it finds it easy to depart from many Western scholarship traditions and openly call for the boycott of modern centers of learning, thereby earning the name Boko Haram. That is, Western education is prohibited in Islam. It alone so far has manifestly inclined to use force in the pursuit of that objective. However, and to be fair to the group, it didn't instigate the present cycle of violence, even though it has long seemed inevitable. Boko Haram has often explained that it was first provoked by the killing of its members by the police, and secondly, by the killing of its founder, Muhammad Yusuf, in a police cell in Maiduguri in 2009, and the destruction of its centers in various towns in the zone. We are avenging the killing of our leader by members of the Nigerian security forces, it often explained at the beginning of the crisis. Then it went further to add the list of local officials that connived with government forces in the 2009 crackdown. One by one, it executed them, mostly in their houses. It demanded for apologies from the three governors who oversaw their brutal crackdown. To save their lives, the first tendered his unreserved apology immediately. The second fled the country, and the third abandoned his domain and relocated to the capital city of Abuja. Later, as its conflict with the government gained momentum, Boko Haram added the Christians to its list of targets. The group sought justification by citing the atrocities of Christians against Muslims in other parts of the north. Other Muslims were quick to condemn the group, especially after it carried out its first bombing of a church at Madalla, near the capital city of Abuja. Many commentators saw the targeting of Christians by the group as a desperate attempt to embroil the country in a religious crisis or a war which will push the mainstream Muslims inevitably to its side. It didn't work. In a manner that actually impressed the world, both Muslims and the Christians refused to swallow the lethal pill. The conflict intensified, with Boko Haram targeting military, police, and the conflict intensified, with Boko Haram targeting the military, police, and security agents, as well as churches and Christians on the one hand, and the Nigerian military and the police on the other, going after them, even without recourse to the law where it is possible. The stories of the extrajudicial killings by the Nigerian military abound. The military authorities deny each one of them. There are also many instances in which the military personnel allegedly engage in the burning of markets and properties, especially in Maiduguri town. Not all the killings of civilians could be ascribed to Boko Haram, though. The Nigerian military is itself suspect, according to many civilian accounts in the towns of Maiduguri and Damaturu. Though the military has always denied these allegations, its denials are seen as less than convincing by many. The death of a Nigerian Civil War veteran and hero, Muhammad Ishua, in Maiduguri is a good example to cite. The military said he was killed by Boko Haram. Boko Haram immediately denied the charge and said he was killed by elements within the military. And there are many, including this author, who are inclined to accept the latter. A number of Christians have also been caught killing their Christian brothers or attempting to burn their churches. The two killings of Igbos and some students in the northeastern town of Mubi, the first in 2011 and the other few months ago, were, for example, found to be respectively undertaken by Igbo businessmen and defeated students in a local union elections in a polytechnic. Yet, it was quickly ascribed to Boko Haram. Twice in the northeastern town of Bauchi, in Calabar, and in the village of Mia Barkate, for example, Christians have been caught attempting to burn their own churches for some in-house reasons. If they had succeeded, the culprit would have been reported to be Boko Haram. While Christians see Boko Haram as a product of the Muslim community in Nigeria, many Muslims see it as a product of a Christian conspiracy aimed at blackmailing Muslims and weakening them in the region. Many things are cited to support this theory. I will mention three. One is the deliberate allowance let the group by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, a born-again Christian who refused to nip the group in the bud for over 7 years. Another is the protection that the group's founder enjoyed from a Christian minister of Obasanjo in form of court bails whenever he was arrested. The minister, to my knowledge, has not denied the allegation so far. A Christian, Yakubu Bition, was once arrested on charges of financing the group by the Nigerian State Security Service, the SSS. This theory fits well into the larger perception by many Muslims that Salafi jihadists are worldwide recruited by Western governments to embroil the Muslim world in a crisis, from Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and their branches in North Africa to Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram in Black Africa. In any case, it will be difficult for mortals like me with limited access to intelligence reports to know the exact truth. Boko Haram is not gaining new members, so it is increasingly weakened by the day. However, the day it would be overcome by the Nigerian government is not in sight either. The government is opposed to negotiation with what it sees as essentially a terrorist group, in spite of many calls for it to do so. Boko Haram will continue as a subterranean insurgent group with plenty easy targets to hit. Innocent Nigerians will continue to be caught in the crossfire. 2 weeks ago, Boko Haram carried out one of its most audacious operations. It attacked a church located in the middle of the largest military cantonment in the country and left the military licking its wounds. The international community has not responded strongly to any of the crises in the region, despite reports from credible international human rights organizations that show blatant abuse. The American government, in a move that is considered the harshest so far, listed 3 leaders of Boko Haram and failed short of declaring the group as a terrorist organization. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Fatih Bensouda, last week released a report on the crisis in Nigeria. She implicated Boko Haram of war crimes, but failed to indict the Nigerian military and the officials in volatile north-central state governments of significant human rights abuses. Her report has been described as a disappointment by many local commentators. This is the situation in northern Nigeria. While the factors that precipitate the crisis remain, little is there to tell us that we are near the end of the crisis in their various forms. Peace that is cultivated on economic prosperity, good governance, and justice is a far cry from reality here. And the culprits, especially those among the rulers, are getting away with it. Thank you.